the one who is attributed with all proper attributes of perfection, like knowledge and power, like knowledge, power, and will, and is exalted above all what is considered imperfection. So I think it's supposed to be all that is considered imperfection, if attributed to him, i.e., whatever does not befit him, like ignorance, powerlessness, color, boundaries, and occupying a direction and place, because they are all attributes of the creation. Yes. All right. So here, this is the section, if you want, about the perfection, the attribute of perfection. So first of all, Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala, He has an attribute, an eternal, everlasting attribute of the self. It's called Al-Kamal, perfection. And this attribute has other names, many names, such as Al-Azama, greatness, and Al-Jalal also means greatness. His Kamal is his Jalal and his Azama, and also Al-Ulu, highness. This is the meaning of his attribute of highness. His Ulu is his Azama, his highness is his greatness. Yani, notice that the word high, even in English, it has meaning of great, and it has meaning of direction in language. So for Allah, it means greatness, not direction. The ulu. The word azama has the meaning of size in the language, greatness. The great has meaning of size and has meaning of status. So for Allah, it means status, not size. And this attribute of perfection is also called ar-rif'ah. Ar-rif'ah also means highness. All of these are named for the same attribute, which is perfection. And also, this attribute has another name, which is al-uluhiyah, godhood. His attribute of perfection is his godhood, Azza wa Jal. So all of these have are names of the attribute of perfection. Now, when we talk about attributes of, here we're going to say befitting perfection. What did they say here? They said proper attributes of perfection. Proper attributes of perfection. That's the meaning of what our sheikhs also said, befitting perfection. What does Yani, why are we saying it that way? Why don't we just say perfection? Someone might say, well, why are you saying befitting? Because whenever you put a qualifier, an adjective, then that limits what you are saying. Adjective limits what you are saying. If I say, bring me a book, you can bring me any book. But if I say, bring me a red book, then you can only bring me a red one. The adjective limits. It's a qualifier. Qualifies, meaning limits, which you are talking about. So when you put an adjective, then it should be for a reason. There must be a reason you are trying to limit what you are saying, that you are limiting what you are saying. The implication would be that there's something called unbefitting perfection. That's the implication. Or else there's no need to put the word befitting there. The implication here is that it's possible that there's something called improper attributes of perfection. Or else, if there is no such thing as an improper attribute of perfection, then what's the point of saying a proper attribute of perfection? Yes. Because that's because the perfection is either for Allah. Yani, the perfection here means an expression, a wording, a wording. We're talking about words here. This section here is talking about words. He is attributed with all proper attributes of perfection. Yani, we can use for him such words as knowledge and power and will. And he is exalted from all imperfection. So we cannot use such words as ignorance and powerlessness and color and boundaries and being in a direction or place. Okay. So perfection, a word of perfection can either be used for Allah or it could be used for the slave, or it could be used for Allah and the slave. Those are your options. So the one that's used for Allah only is like, for example, uh, eternity, being eternal without a beginning. This is the attribute of perfection only for Allah Ta'ala in word. Yani in word. All of the attributes of Allah in meaning are only for him. In meaning. That's why I'm saying we talk about the wording here. In meaning, all of his attributes are only his. But in wording, the words, sometimes you can use the same word for the slave, sometimes you can't. So sometimes you can use a word for Allah, not for a slave. Sometimes you can use a word for a slave, not for Allah. And sometimes you can use a word for Allah and the slave, but it's going to mean something different each time. So eternity, for example, is an example of something only for Allah. For a slave, for example, we're going to say health. Health is an attribute of perfection for a slave. There's another word also you can put here that helps understand excellence. The excellence. Yani, I will use excellence for slave. The perfection of Allah and the excellence of the slave. So, health, but the Arabic word is the same. That's the thing here. Let me just. Uh, so, you have kamal, perfection. Kamal, the Arabic word kamal. This Arabic word kamal, it might mean perfection. And it might mean excellence or the likes of that. Now, Yani, if you were someone who wants to avoid the word perfect for creation, if you wanted to avoid the word perfect for creation, here's an option for you. Excellent. I'm not saying you have to avoid that. So Allah Ta'ala has perfection. Allah has a kamal and slaves have a kamal. And sometimes, when we say a statement of kamal for Allah, that's going to be like eternality, is being attributed with eternality. Beginninglessness exclusively, even in word is only for him. You cannot say slaves are eternal. And then there's a kamal for the slave, such as health and beauty and intelligence. Then there's a kamal, you can use it for Allah. I'm talking about a word for Allah or slave. Then there's a word that you can use for Allah and the slave. Then that's going to be like knowledge. And let's say power. But it's going to mean something for Allah has one meaning and for the slave has a different meaning. So that's why we're talking about here the words. Uh, yes. And like this. So, yeah, if we want, we could just stick to knowledge. Keep it simple. Okay. I think that's clear. Any question here?
No, barakallah feek.
Amin Wafiq. Now, there's also uh, words that are perfection for Allah, such as his name. Al-Mutakabbir, as in terms of Kamal, you can only use it for Allah. And also Al-Jabbar, in terms of Kamal, that's only for Allah. If you apply the term mutakabbir to the slave, it means arrogant. Then that is imperfection for the slave. Lack of excellence. And if you use al-jabbar for the slave, it means tyrant or bully. And that's imperfection too. For Allah, al-mutakabbir means the great one. Yani for Allah, al-mutakabbir is an amplified form of kabir, which is one of his names. Al-kabir is one of his names too. Al-kabir means al-azim. Al-kabir means al-azim. Great. And al-mutakabbir means al-kabir, meaning, but how did we say, for example, al-qadir means al-qadir, but has more meaning like that. Al-mutakabbir means al-kabir, but has more meaning. Just like we say, Ar-Rahman has more meaning than Ar-Rahim. Okay. So he is the one who is attributed with all proper attributes of perfection, like knowledge, power, and will, and is exalted above. So they chose to use the word above. Personally, I have no problem with using the word above here, especially that they put the word exalted with it. But some of our brothers and sisters, they will always avoid the word above, which that's choice. Oh, I'm not going to dispraise a person for that. But what is a problem is when a person does not acknowledge that it has another meaning, that it has a meaning that works, and then any person who used that word, he will immediately comment for him. This requires wisdom here. Doesn't always require a comment. Not every time a person's saying a word like above or over or other words like far or close does not mean the person believes Allah has direction. What helps here is one, not being unreasonable. Yani, before not being unreasonable, understanding the language, number one. What helps here is understanding the language. Number two, understanding humans too. If you understand humans, you gotta understand how they talk. Yeah, once you understand human, then it doesn't matter a lot what his culture is. Yani, then you still need to know his culture after that if you want to understand him as an individual. But as a human, you understand humans and understand how they talk. Then somebody's going to say, for example, God is above all of this. Then you're not going to be shook here. Um, or someone would say to you, I wish I was closer to Allah. You don't have to be shook here. You could say something to the person, or you might not have to also. Not necessarily.